Here again for Small Business Digest. We have with us a returning guest, Marwan Forzley. Did I pronounce it correctly, Marwan?
You did. Thank you.
Okay. My audience knows I have difficulty. But anyway, um, he has a payments company which we followed. Wish I could have put some money into it. But anyway, we've asked him to come on board to talk about what we can do. Inflation is on everybody's lips, and maybe there's some ways he can tell us how to kind of anticipate forward events. Marwa, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Don.
Again, tell for our audience a little bit about your personal background, which I always found interesting, then about your company, and finally a website.
Yeah. So I started Veem. I used to run e-commerce at Western Union. I had my own company called eBillMe, which I founded and sold to them. And prior to that, I've been in another company that ended up with Nokia. So I spent my career in building businesses that ended up with another big company over time. We built Veem on a very simple idea that when you go to buy coffee in the morning, you don't think of how you pay, you just do it. When you do business payments, it's the opposite of that. It's like it goes from really simple to really complex. The reason why it becomes complex because business payments, you require doing it on a bank through a bank wire or sending a check or dealing with a paper invoice. And the whole experience becomes messier. So you have fees to deal with, you have timing issues, you have approval processes, you got to figure out how to take the payment and integrate it into your accounting systems. The entire experience becomes more complex. So what we wanted to do with Veem is make it so that the function of payments in a business setting is like paying as a consumer, something you don't think about. So we developed Veem to help businesses pay and get paid. And we wanted to dumb it down, simplify it, delight the customer so that when you're paying or getting paid, it's like buying a cup of coffee, something you don't think about. That's why we built Veem. The company website is Veem, www.veem.com. Veem means it's a very easy exchange of money. That's why it's called Veem. And the website is veem.com.
I always like that. That's clever. I always ask people where they get their names from. But we face a very different world right now. For years we've had low interest rate. Now we're going back to what I think are the bad old days. And the pandemic has really hurt small business in a lot of different ways. Didn't hurt the big guys; it helped the little guys. So, what are your ideas about what people should be doing to ease anything that's going on?
Yeah. So let me give you context as to what do we know about inflation and how it's playing out in the small business world. We just did a survey and we asked participants, which is a combination of Veem customers and businesses that are not on that platform, both. We asked them their views on inflation and if this is something that they worry about and if this is something that they think is going to sort out anytime soon. And the majority of respondents said that this is top of mind. And this is something that's not going to go away anytime soon. It's something that we're going to have to live with for the remainder of the year. And they're worried about what it has an impact on their business. It manifests itself into two things. One, higher interest rates and higher cost of labor and higher cost of inventory. And so between the three angles here, it becomes quite constraining to the business. So on one hand, your labor is more expensive. So then your cost of operation is more expensive. And then when you buy inventory to go service your customers, that cost is going up. And so if you need to borrow cash from banks or somebody else to to help you run your business, the cost of that capital increases with interest rates. So you got in a situation where anywhere you go, costs are moving higher. And so you end up in a dilemma. Do I jack up my own prices and pass it on to the customer? And if I do that, does that then reduce demand to my service? Or is there something else I can work with to help me with my business? So the ideas that we think are quite helpful for a small business are all around using technology to and the latest services in the market to reduce your cost structure. Starting with on the labor side, we live in a world today where all of us are on Zoom and video conferences. And so a trend that we're seeing in the market where folks are deploying labor wherever they can find labor that speaks their language, at a much cheaper cost structure. So let me give you an example. We have customers that their website now is being run by someone or a team that's working on it from Philippines. They speak English. They work your time zone at a cost structure that's a lot cheaper than having it serviced, in the U.S. So that's an example of reducing your cost. We also live in a world where everything is online, so it's easier to find different suppliers. So if one supplier is jacking up the price on you, you can find ways to source other suppliers that have better pricing in different markets. So that's another angle of where you can use technology and globalization to help you reduce your costs on the inventory side. And the third piece, cost of capital. There are all kinds of alternative providers in the market, and having access to them is becoming easier. These are alternative providers that have different forms of providing capital to you. Comes in the forms of lines of credit or buy now, pay later type products where you can take your expenses and do it in pieces instead of paying it all up front. So that way you have your cash flow have a range of options to work with. If you have cash, you want to pay now, you can go at it. If you don't have cash, you want to conserve it, you can have different pay methods to work with, whether it's credit card, you can delay it for a month, or buy now, pay later options where you can delay it for up to 12 months. Gives you the full range of controls that you can do to manage your cash flow. So I'm going to stop here because I said a lot. I'm going to stop here and make sure I answer.
Okay. Well, I will ask you a question which was brought up to me this morning. The last time we had high interest rates and inflation, the economy was still basically manufacturing and service. Now we're predominantly service here in the United States. And people are fearful that this latest round of inflation will be exasperated because we're in effect a people. Most of our assets are people and technology. What do you say to that?
I say that this version of inflation is similar to previous episodes in that it affects your business. What's different about it is that we live in a very interconnected world, and we live in a technology-driven world. So you can use that to your advantage to essentially lower your cost structure, both inventory and people, by taking advantage of the assets all around the world. So in the past, when we have previous episodes of inflation, we were constrained with the amount of technology we could use, and we were living in local markets. Right now, the markets are a lot more interconnected. The local and global mesh together. So use that to your advantage to lower your cost so that it doesn't inhibit you. And it's a way to deal with inflation, to weather it, to risk manage it, to have to have less impact from it.
Well, let's talk about Veem for a second.
Mhm.
I want to, instead of getting from my regular supplier in China,
Mhm.
I find a new supplier in Vietnam.
Mhm.
The systems like yours make it easier to establish the payments between.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what we do. So we remove friction from the payment experience. So, for example, you were dealing with a supplier in China, you found a new one in Vietnam. With Veem, all you have to do is enter really the destination. It's a different destination, which is Vietnam. All you need is the email address of the party that you're dealing with, and then the rest of it gets executed so that money is exchanged from you to the party in Vietnam. But the thing that's important here is the ability to switch payments and have payments out of the way in terms of friction. It is all a benefit to a larger, broader organization, which is in the world of technology and the internet. If that supplier is giving you a hard time or giving you a much higher price than what you were used to, it's a lot easier to find alternatives to that. And then the rest of it, from a payment and logistics, there's all kinds of services like Veem and others in other markets to help you out with the mechanics of getting it done.
But you also deal with the exchange rate and
Yeah,
the fluctuation. But
absolutely.
the question is, how do you determine the rate, and how do you make it give it an advantage to your customer with the rate? I mean, in a given day, a exchange rate may vary 50 cents or $2 or whatever. How do you establish that? That was a question that was asked to me after your last
Yeah.
appearance.
We lock the exchange rate for you. So if you're buying currency in the US, for example, and let's say you want to buy Canadian dollar, we lock that exchange rate for you for a period of time, typically 24 hours. So whatever the price fluctuation, it doesn't matter. When we give you the price, we give you the price, we guarantee it. If you are paying in US dollar, then the receiving end, we also guarantee the FX rate for your receiver, for your supplier, for a period of time, 24 hours. So again, regardless of the fluctuation on the receiving end, we take care of it. That's all part of the way the system works. Our foreign exchange rates are quite attractive compared to what you're going to get from your bank. So you can compare the two and determine if you're getting an advantage with Veem. But we're quite attractive compared to the bank.
Your website again for our audience?
Yes, it's veem.com, Veem.com.
Why did you decide to go into this particular area?
Um, if you look at small businesses, they tend to be um, the most underserved in the market. I mean, generally, vendors, they focus on consumers, they focus on large enterprises. Small businesses is a layer of the market that tends to be a second thought, and they contribute to GDP, they contribute to the economy, they employ labor, but because they're not big, they don't get attention, and because they're not consumer, it's a layer of the market that needs its own set of services, and it needs focus, and that's why we like that segment. I also come from a background of like family members where like there's a lot of small business, so I relate to the struggles of day to day running a business. I mean, it's a tough thing to run a business and make sure that you're containing your costs, you're containing your operations, and you keep focused on what you know best. And we wanted to have tools in the market to make sure we help you out when you need them.
This is purely a personal question. Do you think the pandemic will come back? And if so, how will it affect the your business and other people's business?
I think it's going to be an endemic. It's going to be in for a while with variations on COVID. We just have to live with it,
Mm.
and it's just like the flu and other viruses we have over time. It just becomes one of the things that we deal with and we're equipped to deal with. And so my advice to all small businesses: load up on technology, use data services in the market. There's a whole bunch of providers in the market that are designed to make your life simpler. Take advantage of that because you have enough things to worry about. And the pandemic or the endemic or whatever you want to call it, we just have to live with it. It's just part of life, and you move on and you use the latest technology and services to weather any changes that come from it.
But over the last 2 years, did your volume decrease, or did the average um, volume of customer decrease because of the pandemic?
Um, it depends on the segment. So overall, it all increased, but we have a lot more online customers, and so online customers expanded during the pandemic. The ones that had less volume are physical goods and services where you have to depend on an exchange that happens between people. So anything physical, retail, in person got more affected than online. Online expanded. Um, Anything that depends on physical exchange of goods and services decreased, but overall it went up on in our case.
Well, another question was asked the last time. Um, we work a deal and involving delivery of 10,000 T-shirts,
Mhm.
and once the T-shirts are delivered, release the payment either as a credit. Does Veem have that service?
At the moment, we have the ability to pay with a credit card, get paid on a card. We have the ability to include a pay later program where you can take your expense and have it paid in installments up to 12 months. What I think you're looking for is some form of a credit insurance or
Yeah,
a form of getting paid earlier. That's something that's on the roadmap.
I'm sorry. Is it on the way?
On the roadmap.
Um, where do you do most of your development? Uh,
It's all local. We have two primary sites, one in San Francisco in the Bay Area, another one in Canada.
hmm, uh, oh, we have time. How do you see the future of the payments industry? We saw a conference put on by in which J.P. Morgan said he thought 90 or 95% of all payments will be electronic rather than any other way. What do you see as the future?
Yeah, definitely electronic, and we're going to see a reduction in all kinds of paper and check, partly because of automation on invoices that's going on in the market, and partly because the technology evolved quite a bit to handle electronic payments and reconcile and streamline and speed up payments so that the check becomes really something that's not that useful to your business. So we see less checks long term, more electronic payments. Within electronic payments, we're going to see a lot more emphasis on real time or near real time payment systems. ACH in the US, so moving money from a bank account to a bank account, usually takes about 3 days. There's all kinds of methods that are coming up where the payment is going to be real time. We're going to see a lot more of that in domestic markets. We're going to see a lot more real time in global markets as well. As you know, Bankwire today takes 3 to 5 days for payments to go from the US to Vietnam or Germany or Cambodia or any other market. We're going to see in the future, we're going to see a lot more faster payments in global markets, very similar to the way local markets are developing. So this flexibility on payment speeds that are going to be in the market. I'd say the other thing that's, and this is a little bit down the road, I think blockchain, cryptocurrency has a role to play. I think these instruments are still in their early stages. As they become bigger and more mature, they're going to have their part in the ecosystem.
Well, that leads me to another question. Oh, if all of this goes online, the IRS, if it could mine this information, could eliminate an awful lot of two sets of books companies. What do you think about that?
In terms of
In other
like,
words, that they'll be easier to uh, realize how much money you really did take in last year, rather than what you reported.
Mhm. Well, payment systems that are electronic track essentially delivery of payments from one party to another, and that reporting structure is available to any of the parties that need it, to any of the government entities that are needed to audit systems. So yeah, I mean, as things become more digitized, whether it's local or global, the benefit of that technology is the ability to also track what happens to these payments, which governments have access to.
Mm. And but the other side of it, if you have instant payment, isn't it going to be easier for crooks to get away with a lot more rather than 3 days?
Yeah, it's that's an interesting question. And real-time payments are riskier because of that, and so risk engines on the back end need to be adapted to have quicker decisioning on spotting who's a bad actor and who's not. So that's part of the dynamics of enabling real-time payments, is that you have to step up the amount of risk management you do on these transactions, so that you spot the bad actors immediately.
Well, we only have a couple of minutes left. Your website again, and what would you like to leave our audience with?
So the website is Veem, VEEM.com. And the main thing, the main takeaway is, like, inflation is a real issue. The struggle is real. Interest rates are creeping up. And I think it's important for the sake of your business, to look at ways to lower your costs across the board, cost of labor, cost of supply, cost of capital. And there's tools in the markets to help you out, and leverage the technology and the latest services in the market to take advantage of these services to the best you can.
Well, on that note, we say thank you for, again, the 27 minutes of very interesting dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day and a great holiday.
Thank you.